make sure that you understand your own self-worth and don't discredit that. It's important to know that if you've gotten to this point in your life and you're listening to something like this podcast, you're trying to educate yourself in a way to give something back. And your words are worth that. And you don't think, oh, I don't know enough, so I'm going to keep it to myself. You've got a message, put it out there.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
The Health in the Real World podcast is sponsored by most exercises and workouts, whether they be running, biking, elliptical, rowing machine, traditional weightlifting, or even CrossFit, do not give you a balanced workout. And when you do workouts that neglect even one area, you're out of balance, resulting in pain and injury as well. Achieve your goals with the fitness program your chiropractor would love. Visit chrisjanke.com/pod to watch the free video.
Hello and welcome to Health in the Real World. I'm Chris Janke and I'm joined today with Bill Daniels. Bill, how's it going today?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you coming on. Can you, real quick, just give everybody kind of a synopsis of what you do, who you help, and what you're all about in the health world?
Sure. So I've been training since 2004 as a personal trainer. I worked for a couple of years at a high school where I grew up as a strength and conditioning coach as well for a few years before that, which kind of catapulted me into the personal training world. I moved to California in 2004, found a job at the local YMCA, and started learning more and more about, how I can help people. And then I got into playing some adult league softball and actually injured my back really bad, and went through all kinds of different methodologies. I went, chiropractors and acupuncture and physical therapy and all kinds of different stuff. And nothing was really totally helping me. And I couldn't really figure out why that was happening, why something might work for me one day and not another day, and why a certain methodology would work for certain people and wouldn't work for others. So I kind of just took my fate into my own hands and started doing massive amounts of research in between clients, and ended up really diving deep into the world of neurology and learning all kinds of different stuff about how you can help people with different kinds of injuries and how to figure out what might be going on. And so now I work with a lot of people who have physical limitations, not just physical injuries, but also things like vertigo. I work with a lot of people with vertigo and different weird issues that might come up over the years. And it's been really great to be able to help all these people.
That's great. There's a lot of surface level similarities between your story and mine. I've been a personal trainer also since 2004, worked at a YMCA in Northern California and had back pain. So there's a lot of similarities.
Nice.
So
where in Northern California?
I'm in San Jose. What about you?
Okay. I'm in Walnut Creek.
Oh, close. Nice.
Yeah.
About an hour away?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so Bill, I have some questions. This is great. So neurology, what kinds of things were you researching? How did you sort of piece the puzzle pieces together? Go back, 15 years and talk about how you started to see things a little bit differently and how you could help people.
Yeah. So, I'm a very inquisitive guy, and I'm really fascinated by the human body. So everybody I had work on me, I would constantly be asking them questions like, what are we trying to accomplish? What are we doing here? And sometimes they just wouldn't even know. Physical therapist was like, we're just going to try this because I don't know. That's just what they tell me to do.
Right.
And then other times, there's just different perspectives. And it was interesting to hear all that stuff. But as I started to really kind of think about it, I really started realizing that, okay, if we're going to do anything physical, the muscles need to move the skeleton. And the muscles don't do that by themselves. They do it through the signals they get from the nerves, and those signals come from the brain. So basically, the brain's in charge of everything. And I started just kind of researching that route. And then eventually I actually came across Z Health, if you've ever heard of Z Health, and I've become
Heard of Z Health, yeah.
Yeah. And so I've done 3/4 of that curriculum, and it's been absolutely life-changing for me and for a lot of my clients. And it's just, once you start to understand it and realize how it makes sense, it's really cool to see things from that totally different perspective and just do this weird other thing that you otherwise wouldn't think has anything to do with, your knee pain or your back pain. And all of a sudden in 2 minutes, it's gone,
Right.
So it's cool.
Z Health is trippy. And I would imagine you if you're a Z Health practitioner or do something anywhere remotely like this, it's kind of like what you were talking about with a physical therapist who doesn't really know how to explain what they're actually doing.
Right.
Z Health is probably very easy to get into that category because, like you said, sometimes I remember one guy, I got a session and he's like, all right, I want you to look up and to your left and without moving your head. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, just like 3 more times. And I did it. And then all of a sudden I had like this release in my shoulder and I was like, I don't know what you just did. That was magic.
Yeah.
And fortunately he was able to explain it in a way that I understood. But I would imagine like, if you didn't know how to explain it, you'd be like, wow, it was just magic.
Yeah. Actually, the very first, I have a funny story that goes right along with that. The very first Z Health course I took their introductory course one weekend, and I went back to work the next Monday. And our administrative assistant at the gym, she's always excited to hear what we're learning. Show me what you learned. And I was like, all right, well, I'm like, well, what do you want to get better? And she says, oh, well, my shoulder hurts. And she's like, I had surgery on it 2 years ago. And she tries to put her hand behind her back and barely gets to her hip. And she goes, this hurts.
Wow.
And she's like, the doctor says everything's fine. So after talking to her for a few minutes, I was like, let's try this vision exercise. So we played catch with a tennis ball from across the room. And the tennis ball had letters on it. And so as she's catching the ball in her good arm, she's got to tell me what letter she's catching in her palm. So her eyes have to track and converge.
Oh, wow.
We did that for 30 seconds. And then she put her arm behind her and she's like, oh my God, what did you just do to me? And I was like, at that point, I was like, I have no idea.
Okay, so this is crazy because I know a lot of people are listening to you going, what the heck? Okay,
Yeah.
So I know at that time you didn't know what it was doing, but now, why did that work?
So basically, she had a previous shoulder injury, and she had surgery to fix it. She went through all the physical therapy. The tissues had actually healed, so there was no physical problem wrong with the shoulder. But there's a whole, without getting too crazy about this, there's a loop right in the brain. So there's a part of the brain that's always telling you you're in pain, and then there's a part that inhibits it. And if that part's not working, you're going to start getting a pain response in an area usually where there was an old injury. So what we did was we just activated that part in her midbrain, which inhibits the pain tract, and all of a sudden the pain was gone.
Wow. Now, did that result last for her? Did it, like a week later, a month later, was she still able to put her arm behind her back?
So about an hour later, she's like, it's starting to hurt again. So we did it again. And then we did it again like 2 or 3 times for the next 3 days. And then that was it. It was fine ever since.
So it took like a handful of times over just a handful of days to make it somewhat permanent.
Yeah. And everybody's different. Some people you do it once and it's better. And some people you have to do it for a while.
Yeah.
And even for her, it was a couple days.
Even if it is, a couple days, even if it's a couple weeks, to be honest, it's like working out, right? You can't just work out once and then expect it to be done for the rest of your life, or you can't just eat once and expect to be full the rest of your life.
Totally.
Right. So, Bill, as far as, I know you mentioned you had pain. Talk to us a little bit about your pain, about how that led you to where you are. Cause I think this is fascinating too, that you were able to sort of heal yourself to the point where not only were you better, but you were so fascinated by what happened that you started to help other people. Like, take us back there for a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly what year I got hurt. It was around 2008 or so. And it was a long recovery. My pain was so bad. Basically what happened was I went to go chase a fly ball and I stepped in a ditch in the outfield and my back went out and it was painful. And I went home. I got up and I immediately just got in my car. I went home. And as soon as I walked in my front door, I laid down on the ground and I couldn't get up. I spent the night there.
Oh, man.
And It was awful. I couldn't even get to the doctor. Like it was bad. So after that day, I was able to get up off the floor, and I started trying to move around, and I couldn't even pick anything up off the table. Like it was just really bad. I finally got to the doctor, got some medication. That made me feel awful, just in a different way, because I just don't really like the way those medications make me feel. And
Right.
I started seeing a physical therapist, and then going through that whole process with insurance and trying to schedule it. And they're like, "Oh, we can see you in 2 weeks." And I'm like, "I'm in pain right now," and once I finally started to figure out how to make myself better, I really knew I needed to share that with people. As a personal trainer, no matter what your niche is, you're going to have clients that come in one day and be like, "Oh, something hurts," or "I got into a car accident, now my neck hurts," or whatever it might be. And if you don't know how to deal with that, that's going to be a problem for you, for your whole business. I just happen to make that what I focus on now. So I have people that want to get into better shape, but also have, that physical limitation. And it's kind of cool when people come to me and they're like, "I hear you're the guy to see when nothing else works." So I'm like, that's a great reputation to have.
That's a fantastic reputation. That's awesome. That is awesome. Very cool. Well, Bill, I want to give you a chance to talk about a little bigger picture as far as like guiding principles and things like that. Health and wellness are great. We know they're a part of a good, successful life. But I want to put you on the podium at a graduation, like giving the commencement talk at a graduation or a keynote speech at a corporation, something like that. What's kind of like your bigger overall message that you would give to them as far as, maybe work ethic or goals or anything, kind of big picture that you would talk to them about?
Oh yeah. So you talking about for like people who want to get into the health and wellness industry, or just in general?
Let's go very general. Let's go just super general. I do like going back to the university. Let's say you're talking to a bunch of 22-year-olds who are about to start their adult life, and you have a message for them.
Yeah. It's first of all, make sure that you understand your own self-worth and don't discredit that. It's important to know that if you've gotten to this point in your life and you're listening to something like this podcast, you're trying to educate yourself in a way to give something back. And your words are worth that. And you don't think, "Oh, I don't know enough, so I'm going to keep it to myself." You've got a message, put it out there. Don't be shy. And I think that's one hiccup that it took me a long time to get over, was realizing that I can help people, and that you've got to be willing to just put that out there.
Yep, absolutely. I can resonate with that as well. It took me a long time to realize that I had a voice and I should use it to help people and get out there. Well, Bill, that's awesome. How do people get in touch with you? Website, social media, any programs you have?
Yeah. So right now, well, I'll give you my website first. It's www.beyondfitnessonline.com. And I post blogs and YouTube videos on there. So I have a YouTube channel also, Beyond Fitness Online. And I just put different little tips out each week. So I hope that can help a lot of people. I am on LinkedIn, Bill Daniels, and I have my Facebook page as well, which is also Beyond Fitness Online. I have an Instagram, but I don't use that a whole lot. So, but also Beyond Fitness Online. Currently, I've broken away from the big gym, and I'm doing in-home personal training.
Nice.
I have done some online training, and if somebody really wants to try and investigate some of this neurology stuff, I'm happy to do an online training session or two, but they're generally not as effective with what I do as they would be if it was in person. If you're in Northern California, in the East Bay area, I do in-home personal training sessions, so I'd be happy to come to you if you're around that area. And that's about all I've got going right now.
Nice. That's a lot. That sounds good. Well, everyone watching, check out Bill's website. And Bill Daniels, thank you so much for joining me today. Health in the Real World. We'll definitely be in touch, and look forward to seeing what you have going.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment. restorebalance.com to learn more.